Oh, hi, everybody. Sorry for being a little slow to get on here. So I see we have Jeff and we have Ed. I did speak with Dave. I expect Dave. I heard from Connor he cannot attend, and I did not hear from Michael. So anyway, we have Ed, we have Jeff. 21. So we definitely need Dave to have an official meeting, but we can still go over some stuff. And so I see Ed and Jeff. I don't see you and you're on mute. So Jeff, are you there?
I'm here. I'm just eating dinner, so I'm going to be on mute and invisible.
Yeah, that's okay. I was eating a lovely dinner as well, so my apologies for being late, but it was a lovely dinner. And then I needed to help clear the table because it was fish, and one person can't clear the table because the cats will get in it, right? So it took two of us to get everything off the table so that the cats weren't going to dine there. So and anyway, we'll go through the agenda. I did get everything out, and so things really that we wanted to talk about are, well, the future meetings. Oh, we have Dave coming, so I'll go ahead and hang on for just a minute. Hi, Dave.
Hi.
Okay, so I will officially call our meeting to order. We were just getting going. I was a little tardy myself there. So anyway, I'll call to order. Okay. So I will share my screen and we'll go through the agenda and adopt the agenda. So all I need to know is find the share screen. There we go. Okay. So the agenda for today, I still own minutes. It is what it is. I have some vacation coming up. I hope to catch up on minutes on my vacation. But anyway, but I've been keeping up with minutes lately, and I did send out the minutes from June 14th, not too long ago, actually. So they did go out today, recently. So the plans for the future 2021 meetings we discussed last month. And one of the documents I send when we have a meeting, I send the zoning reference document. And that document does have the meetings we have left. What we had agreed on was we would have one meeting in July. It was going to be the one in 2 weeks, but then we missed our meeting the end of June. So that's why we're meeting tonight. So we'll meet twice in July, tonight and in 2 weeks. We'll meet once in August, the 4th Monday, and then we're on regularly scheduled 2nd and 4th Mondays. And of course, the 4th Monday in December is the 27th, and I'm not planning to meet between Christmas and New Year's. So in any event, but we know our schedule goes till the second Monday in December, and we'll figure out 2022 as we get closer. So so in the reference document that I sent, the last thing talks about meetings. So that's one agenda item, and we've already covered it. Other agenda items are status of the laws in progress that we're involved with. So we have input from the planning board for the 2 laws that we sent out. We also have a proposal by Steve Romine that I wanted to talk about regarding the antenna law, telecommunications law, and then a few words about the Housing Oversight Task Force and the building permit moratorium, a few words about that. So that's really our agenda for tonight. So can I have anybody, I guess I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda. Does anybody want to second that?
I'll second it.
Yay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I hope I heard, I don't know if I heard Ed say aye and Jeff's on mute.
Yep, I'm sure.
Yay. Cool. Okay. So we've adopted the agenda. So that's the first thing on the agenda is adopting the agenda. And at some point, I'll track everybody's review of the minutes. But in any event, you've at least got them, and that's what we're doing for there. So and so I was looking somewhere. Somewhere I had noted it was in the minutes, and well, it's not in the agenda, but it is in the minutes. I know that Ed, you had volunteered to work with Connor on scenic overlay, because with the Housing Oversight Committee is called the Housing Oversight Task Force. So anyway, the Housing Oversight Task Force did convene. I'm jumping around a little bit. We did have a first meeting on July 6th. And Ed, I thought that you were going to be added to it. And I think that Bill, it was appointed by Bill. I think he thought, well, we've already got 2 members of the ZRC. Jeff is on it and I'm on it. And so you're not an official member. However, you would, if you have an interest in attending, they're going to be open meetings. And I'm certainly happy to share any information about that. And in fact, one of the things that I did send out was the Housing Oversight Task Force schedule. I had just sent an email shortly before this meeting with what that schedule is. It fits within the 9 months. We'll see how we do fitting in within the 9 months. But the schedule is out, and I did forward it to everybody here because I know that we're very interested in the housing. So so here you can see who the members are. Nan Stolzenberg was on that first meeting that we had. The housing committee is going to meet every other week, and it's going to be every other week. We started on July 6th. The next meeting 2 weeks from July 6th is going to be at 11 a.m. And then after that, we go to 10 a.m. meetings. So we'll be meeting every other week, starting July 6th at 10 a.m. every other week by Zoom, except for the July 20th meeting, which is 11 o'clock. So the housing committee is on its way. I didn't know if anybody had any questions about the housing committee. Okay. And that's why we thought, I think Ed, I see Ed seems, oh, there he is. I can see his shoulder. I can see his, I see his, what you call it. Anyway, so, and there's Ed back facing us. So anyway, as the housing committee does its deep dive, that's why I know, Ed, you thought that you and Connor might proceed with the scenic overlay. I didn't know whether you had any chance to do that or not, to do any scenic overlay.
I sent him a new draft scenic overlay district with a preamble and with updates regarding use of drones for surveillance of property before and after the development, and also punishment for transgressions of permits on the scenic overlay. So I sent him all that. Okay.
All righty. So sounds good. And I guess I can maybe get with Connor, because one thing that I do want to, because now now that we know the direction for housing, we have this oversight task force. We can, as a zoning revision committee, begin to make our progress on other areas. So I know Connor wasn't able to attend tonight, but did you prefer, Ed, to work with Connor offline, or do you want me to kind of just let Connor know that we'd like to put him on the agenda for the next time we meet, to because maybe he'll be ready. If Connor approves those documents, maybe you can send it to all of us, and that can be a topic for our next meeting to get going on that.
Connor has had some personal troubles, and
okay,
I will communicate with him very soon and see if he's had time to work on the submission I made. It was a few pages, the entire scenic overlay section of the zoning law, and I added things here and there through it. And based on Connor and the STR's discussion of the scenic overlay in previous meetings, I took notes, and then I added these notes to the whole section, and now it's in Connor's court. But he has had personal problems.
Okay. All right. And we don't want to, of course, go into that because we're being recorded and that's personal. So
just situations regarding some close friends. So
yeah,
I don't feel obligated to discuss it more than that.
Absolutely. And no, and we're recorded as private.
You know, his grandfather was a really close friend of mine. So
yes. Yep. And Jay was special to a lot of people. Absolutely. Okay, let me just make a note. Okay, all righty. So going back to status, just to make sure everybody knows what's going on. So one thing that I did want to talk about was, so we kind of already covered Housing Oversight Task Force. Anybody have any questions about that, or anything else you want to know about the Housing Oversight Task Force?
No, other than I want to be notified of all meetings and everything, and then have the minutes of the. I'm surprised I wasn't told that I was being removed from the list of those. It is a subject I have been compiling files on for over 30 years in Woodstock. So
Right.
I have a pretty broad set of files about affordable housing.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So what I will say, and besides doing that, I will get you the info. Well, so I kind of just did in terms of calendaring. In terms of calendaring, it's every other Tuesday, starting with July 6th, every other, and they're all at 10 o'clock except July 20th. Is at 11 o'clock. So you're welcome to, I will look to have you included in all the meetings, and there will be a replay of the meeting that we had, which I thought was very good. So in any event, and now do you ever get in Google Docs, Ed?
What?
Do you ever get in Google Docs on Gmail? If you're in Gmail,
I never go to, I don't do, no, I don't do that.
Okay. So one thing, and I've resisted it. However, a lot of committees that I'm on use Google Docs. And so I've gotten into it, especially with this, the Housing Oversight Task Force. I'm changing my ways, and I'm actively going into Google Docs. And I never use my Gmail email address, but I got it memorized now, and because Google Docs is what this committee is going to do to get with the program. You'll want to be familiar with Google Docs, and I will certainly ask, because you need to be invited to the folder, and I will ask that you get invited to the folder.
Thank you.
I'll make it know that. Okay, sounds good. And they give us homework, so we have homework to do for the next meeting. And I printed it off. I didn't do the homework yet, but I printed it off. So that's definitely the plan, because they do plan to give out homework, and they plan to. So I think we're going to move pretty fast, because we know we have the 9-month deadline, which is going to fly by. So that's good. Any other discussion on the Housing Oversight Task Force? And Jeff, is there anything that I didn't say, since you were there, anything I didn't say that you think should be shared with the rest of our committee?
Not at this point. I don't. Yeah, it was more just organizational than anything else.
Yep. Okay. All righty. So with that, well, I'll go to the other quick thing here. Status of the building permit moratorium, in case you want to know. The public hearing was held on June 8th. And it was, I guess they call it suspended, is what they do when you don't close the public hearing, but it's still left open on purpose to be continued at a later date. So it's very likely to get reopened at our meeting tomorrow, the town board meeting tomorrow. So we're doing Phil law tomorrow, public hearing on the Phil law, and we're also doing, I expect the public hearing to get reopened on the moratorium. So that's going on there. So with that being said, so status of laws in progress, we did receive input, we did receive input from the planning board, and I just sent this out earlier. They sent their response a while back. I've been having a problem with my town email, where for some reason when the supervisor sends me emails, I'm not receiving it, but if somebody else receives it and then they reply all, I get it, and I can see, clearly Bill is sending this stuff to me, because I can see it, but for some reason it's not showing up unless somebody else does a reply all, and then I see what Bill sent. So not the best way to run things, but finally I kept saying, well, where's this input? Where's this input? Oh, I sent it. Well, so I finally said, send it to a different ID. And then I forwarded it from that ID to my own ID. And then that's when I forwarded it to you all. So my apologies for it not getting to you all sooner, but I have to go open up a ticket with our email system because
I can't open I can open all Word files sent to me except the one from the planning board. It keeps crashing Word on I have a very advanced, the most advanced Macintosh laptop.
Mm-hmm.
And it keeps crashing every time I try to open the planning board comments on the laws. It crashes, so I don't know what to do. Every other Word document opens up, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they have an outdated Word file or something.
Maybe. So I do have that, and I'll go ahead and I'll share that. So we'll move to that next. This is the planning board response, which doesn't have a lot of, it's not lengthy. So even though you didn't get it well in advance, so the only responses we had on local law number 2 is telecommunications, local law number 3, because local law number 1 is the fill law. So local law number 2 is telecommunications, and local law number 3 is the water protection, aquifer protection. So the only comment that the planning board had on local law number 2 was wondering if the law is in conflict with federal laws. And I don't think we think it is in conflict with federal laws. Or Ed, is there a response I should give back on that? I don't have any reason to believe it's in conflict.
Well, usually when you put an overlay district on a zoning law, you have to define in words the contours of it, like the gateway overlay is defined and others. So Judith Kerman is probably right. We should define the boundaries of the wellhead protection area.
Right, but I'll get to that in a minute. So right now I'm on local law number 2, which is telecommunications. The only comment that came back from the planning board on telecommunications is whether the law is in conflict with federal laws.
It's not, because as long as you don't say you can't have telecommunications frequencies in the town of Woodstock, as long as you don't try to do a blanket ban on, but you can bring up things like historic value and lowering of property values and so forth, which is all brought up in our the text of our telecommunications law, but it doesn't conflict with the federal law at all.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I believe that you were very careful with that. So that would have been my answer, but I thought I should check with you. So local law number 3, then that's the one where, just like you were saying, the overlay, well, you can probably read it on my screen, but in case it's too small to read, the planning board has one comment and concern. Specifically, there is no legal definition such as meets and bounds in the proposed wellhead law. Judy Kerman would be happy to discuss with Supervisor McKenna an easy way of defining the boundaries of the overlay that would not require a surveyor. So the meets and bounds is the comment.
Well, you don't need to use meets and bounds. You need to describe roadways and property lines. As I recall, it doesn't bisect any property. It follows property lines exactly. So the town maps now are this new fancy method of delineating. So we can just we can go to Jerry Washington or somebody and get the exact definition of the aquifer protection overlay district.
Okay. I'm just making notes here, just a sec here. Okay. So from Jerry Washington, But Judy
Or
Kerman,
somebody, they have it on the planning board has it. It's I forget what it's called. It's the geodesic, or it's a way of delineating a area in coordinates that are mapped.
I believe it's ArcGIS, what you're thinking.
Yeah,
of.
GIS. I'm sorry. Yes, GIS.
ArcGIS. Yeah.
ArcGIS.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So, and I think that Judy Kerman, I think that that's what she's saying is Judy Kerman will be happy to discuss with Supervisor McKenna an easy way of defining the boundaries of the overlay that would not require a surveyor. So Ed, does it make sense for you to get with Judy Kerman?
Yeah.
Or,
well, I know her. She's a fellow poet. I know her from Michigan. I've met her in Michigan many years ago. We gave a poetry reading together.
Okay, so you'll get with Judy on that.
Yeah.
On the boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, on boundaries. Okay, so so then you would excuse me. So Ed, your thought is you're okay with the idea of adding this boundary to the law document? Would it be like a map? It would be an addendum, an appendix? What would?
I'm sure it should be described in words. I don't think you need a map to.
Okay.
Because you have a map of the proposed aquifer overlay district, and you need a description in words of the outlines of the map of the district, just like the scenic overlay, just like the like scenic overlay are generally the 1,200-foot topo line, and the gateway overlay district is defined in words, exactly where, along the golf course and so forth, exactly where it is.
Okay. And so my belief is, and I know we're going through this with the moratorium law, is discussions of there's a certain amount of addition. If you have an addition that's a clarification, you don't need to repeat steps. If you have an addition that actually changes the what's within a law, then you have to go repeat some steps. But if you have a clarification, then you get the clarification, you can keep going through the steps.
Yes.
So if you can get with Judy, and maybe we can talk about this in 2 weeks, because it would be nice to be able to give Supervisor McKenna the okay to then forward this, because I think that the process is, now that it's come from the planning board back to us, then he wants us to agree and whatever edits are needed, and then they'll go to the next place. So I think we need to give the okay that we're okay with it going to the next place. So that'll be an agenda topic.
All right, I'll get in touch with her in the next few days.
Okay. Topic.
Oh, Laura, I've got to go on to a different meeting here quick, so I'm going to drop off this in a couple minutes, just to let you know.
Okay. Well, so here's the big question. I'll jump to the last topic then, really. So on the telecommunications law, because I'm looking for people's opinions, there's a group of people who have hired, and we know Andrew Campanelli, who is a lawyer who gets very involved with telecommunications things. And there's a group of people who is asking if the town could pay up to $1,000, basically. They're estimating 600, but they have a benefactor who'll cover the rest of the cost for Andrew Campanelli. But to have Andrew Campanelli take what Ed wrote and do his own markup if he sees any gaps, he could do his own markup on it, and we get his opinion, which is kind of would be the Steve Romine opinion. We'd be getting the Steve Romine opinion. We had said Steve would get it before the public hearing, but after a bunch of reviews. And if we had Andrew Campanelli do it now, then it would be before it goes to the county planning board, before other things. And so the town board's a little split of, do we want to do this? And I wanted guidance from you all of whether I should push hard for this, because it seems to me we'll get input sooner, and we don't have to incorporate it, but we'll know what the recommendations are that come from Andrew Campanelli. That this group is very focused on Andrew's input. So we'll know early his input as opposed to knowing later. So I'm interested in people's opinion of whether I should, try to sway over any town board member that says no, or should I be trying hard to sway them over to say, hey, let's get Andrew Campanelli's input now, rather than waiting. So I am interested in your opinion on that, Jeff, unless you want to talk offline about it.
Well, what would be the reason not to, other than the money?
Well, it's the section of their resolution says that something called the Truth Sayers Benefactors will pay for 60% the cost of Andrew Campanelli fees.
Right, so,
And the town of Woodstock will pay for the other 40%. So that's not the $1,000. You know, I think that we need a resolution that defines exactly what Mr. Campanelli is going to charge. And the second thing that really bothers me as a longtime social activist is the concept of secret money. And this is the third set of large fees, I think, that Mr. Campanelli's earned from the town of Woodstock. And let me just talk a minute. And in writing the two-part telecommunications revision for the town of Woodstock zoning law, which was like 42 pages, I did rely on some of Mr. Campanelli's suggestions from the fall of 2020. So, but the idea of secret money, I think we should ask that Mr. Romine or Mr. whoever's behind this resolution at least tell the supervisor who all the sources of their money for this work. Now, I don't say that lightly. I just have had a lot of experience with groups and their funding. And I think we need that at least the supervisor should be informed as to the source of money. Who knows, it could be another telecommunications company. It could be a big real estate development company. It could be anybody. Who knows who it is? And I think our supervisor, who's I understand pretty suspicious of having this resolution passed, if Mr. McKenna were told who the sources are for this significant amount of money being paid to this lawyer. So that's my opinion. And I think we should send a note to the supervisor or to the town board supporting Mr. Campanelli's efforts on making suggestions on what Dave and I did on the telecommunications law. But that somebody should tell Mr. McKenna the identity or identities plural of the people putting up all this money.
I have just one thing to say. I agree with everything Ed just said. I believe we should know who the people are putting the money up. I also believe the resolution should say the exact quote, not 60% and 40%. Aside from that, I think getting more input into it is going to be valuable. I think if we spend $400 and there's a town on it and it makes a better law, it's worth it. So that's my belief.
I agree with Jeff. I think I have no objection. Campanelli is a very sharp cookie. I've listened to many of his hours. He's like a cult figure. I mean, I've listened to hours of this guy's colloquy, so I know he's a sharp cookie. But what bothered me during his July of 2020 presentation to the town board is that he has two towns in the state of New York that he was representing on telecommunications. And Richard Hebner asked him for the identity of those two towns. And Campanelli suddenly had a memory lapse. Not able to provide us the name of the two towns. You know, because I would have called up those two towns right away and see how they get their draft telecommunications laws.
Yeah. So okay, I know Jeff has to go. But my thought is though if we get the input, it doesn't say we have to incorporate it, but it's good to get the input to know what it is, because a lot of what Andrew comes forth with is very valuable. So having the information so that we can make it our own decision early rather than later. So okay, so Jeff, you're okay with that as long as we know who the benefactor is And it sounds like Ed, and I know Jeff, you have to go, but thank you
And
for,
basically what Ed said is perfect. It's like, we gotta know where the money's coming from. We gotta know how much he's gonna charge us.
yep.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
And I'll swing, and I know you got to go, Jeff, but thank you for hanging in for another couple
No
minutes.
problem.
Okay. So, and Dave, how, I'll swing that over to you then. How do you feel about that? You're okay with that plan?
I'm okay with that.
Yep. Okay. Okay. So we've pretty well covered, I'll go back to the agenda. I think we've pretty well covered it. Where is it? There it is. Oh, okay. So received input from the, oh, were you gonna say something, Ed?
Well, you're going to send a memo to the entire board about our recommendations on this.
Oh, yes. And I will forward Steve's in doing that. Send email to board.
No, there has to be changes in the draft resolution.
Right.
Calling for specific costs to be
Right.
borne by the town and specific costs to be borne by these truth sayers who are going to pay
Right.
60% of this. And then at the same time for Mr. McKenna to be informed
Right.
the identity of all sources of money for Mr. Campanelli.
Right. Okay. All right. I will do that. And then the third thing, because Weston Blelock called me today, and so as he described it, he said exactly what I said earlier. He described it that what Andrew Campanelli would do is he would take, Ed, the draft that you did, and that he would do the markups. And the resolution as it stands is a little mushy about that. The resolution as it stands says we'll incorporate Andrew's input, but it doesn't really say he's going to give us a markup. So we'll reword the resolution to make it clear that he's actually marking up your document and it's for our review, and we'll make a final decision on it. So
and it should be clear any changes or additions, just like when I wrote a new scenic overlay district, I marked and put the changes underlined or in italics. So we know exactly what words were changed.
Exactly. Okay, to know all his changes. Yeah, all his changes, and then it's our decision as to what to incorporate.
Right.
To incorporate. Okay.
Well, I already heard, got an email from one of these truth sayers, and this person said that a lot of what Dave and I did was good. They just felt that there was additional things that Campanelli could bring to it. So I have no objections to that.
Yep. Cool. Oh, okay. So I'm just running down through our agenda. We talked about the planning board input for both laws 2 and 3. We talked about the Steve Romine proposal, and we've been through the other topics. Is there anything else? And I know, so the other thing that we're working on at the moment is scenic overlay, but then Ed, you'll see, you'll touch base with Connor on that.
Yes.
And then we can talk about what, I don't know if we're ready to talk about now what more to do, but if I do scroll down to the bottom of, because we could be working, if it depends on Connor's situation. And well, we're just going to meet the one time in August anyway. So it would be nice to do scenic overlay next. However, if for any reason Connor is unable because he's got, he's a volunteer and things happen in people's lives, and I get it. So we can discuss, but maybe we'll hold this as discussion for later. What else are we going to work on? We had 13 items total. One, of course, is a general item. Housing is going with the housing committee. We've got the 2 laws address a couple of things. We still have hamlet areas, large parcel areas. So we still have different things that we can look at. But I guess I think for now, we'll leave it as it is. And then we'll see how active we can all be on the scenic overlay piece. And if that's going to be a delay, then we'll pick something else off the list, I think, to get going in parallel while the housing oversight task force does its thing. So I think I'm good for this meeting, unless people think there's more we should be doing today.
I think we can call it to an end for today.
Yay. Dave, anything else you wanted to cover?
No, I guess not. What,
Okay.
I'm wondering what items we have opened. I mean, are
Oh,
still open. We haven't touched.
so the things that we, whoops, I went to someplace odd here. Where are we? Anyway, okay. So somewhere is that list. And I'm not sure whether it's at the bottom of the minutes. No, it's not. I'll need to look up. It won't take me that long to find it. Open, browse, zoning. Whoops. Action. Plan. Okay. So the things that so that hamlet areas, and this was the planning board recommended change. So one of the things that I sent out a while ago, but it was not top of our priority list, so it's still on hold, is going through their hamlet areas zoning change, that the neighborhood commercial, light industrial, so we can be going through the law that they proposed and make our decisions on it. Something called large parcel area is something that we want to be looking at. Of course, aquifer, we already have a law on that. Scenic overlay is what Ed and Connor are working on. Something called renewable energy was on the list, so we have to go, we can pull up the comprehensive plan section and read the words on that. Telecommunications, of course, we're doing. Housing, of course, we're doing. There is an item on parking, special permit uses, which Connor would be very key on because the planning board works with special permits. Site plan review and approval was another item. Shared workspace and business incubators was another item from the comp plan. So those were the things really we're doing, because number 12 was telecommunications, and number 13 was an overall, number 13 was kind of an overall, any other changes that we want to make. Yeah, periodically review the zoning law. So, which is what we're doing right now. So that's kind of it. The hamlet, and I put in green the things that were rising to the top of the list. Of course, housing is already active. So that could actually be in blue at this point because that's active. So hamlet areas, large parcel areas, renewable energy, parking, special permit uses, site plan review and approval, and shared workspaces with business incubators.
Okay.
So we can think, we can be thinking about what we want to take up next, but it would be nice to, if we can do scenic overlay and get that moved along, that would be great. But if there's going to be a delay, you know, because things come up as they do, then we can see what as a group we want to take up next. But I do think, you know, being able to bring the laws that we've already got going through the process as they come back in, getting them to move back out again, I think is a healthy thing too. So that's always a priority, is getting the things we've already got going, moving them through the process. So, okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Yeah. Yay. Or did I hear a second? Did I hear a second from Ed?
Yes.
Yay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So I'll call it 7:15 adjourn. Thank you all very much, and we'll talk again in 2 weeks.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Leave.
Oh, and Ashley, I'll call out Ashley's name in case she's within hearing distance. Ashley, if you can hear me, we're finished.